The cold metal room had no windows. Ji-woo stood in the center, her hands bound behind her back with energy cuffs that hummed softly against her wrists. The Vareth guards stood like statues on either side of her. They were tall creatures, almost 8 feet, with pale blue skin and eyes that held no warmth. Their faces never moved. They never smiled, never frowned. They simply existed. Like machines made of flesh. The judge, if that was the right word, sat on a raised platform above her. His name was Archon Velrath, and he was the highest authority on this station. He looked down at Ji-woo like she was an insect. "Human designation Ji-woo," he said. His voice was flat and empty. "You have been found guilty of violating the sacred accord. You have spread emotional contamination among Vareth citizens. This is a crime of the highest order." Ji-woo wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them that all she did was teach children about human art. She had shown them paintings from Earth. She had told them stories. And one child, just one small Varath child, had started to cry when she told a sad story about a lost dog finding its way home. That was her crime, making a child feel something. "The punishment," the Archon continued, "is neural suppression for a period of 40 Earth years. You will serve as a bondservant in the Imperial Archives. You will catalog human artifacts. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not feel." 2 medical officers approached her. Ji-woo tried to pull away, but the guards held her still. She felt a sharp pain at the base of her skull. Then, everything went quiet. Not quiet like silence. Quiet like death. The fear she had felt moments ago simply vanished. The anger disappeared. The sadness, the hope, the desperate wish to see her family again. All of it faded like smoke in wind. She stood there, and she felt nothing at all. The Archon nodded. "Take her to her station." The archives were deep in the belly of the station. Ji-woo walked through the gray corridors without really seeing them. Her legs moved because they were supposed to move. Her eyes looked forward because that was the correct direction. Inside her mind, there was only emptiness. Her workstation was a small desk, surrounded by shelves filled with human objects. There were books, photographs, children's toys, pieces of clothing. All of it had been taken from human ships and colonies during the Varath expansion. All of it was now just data to be cataloged. Ji-woo sat down and began to work. She picked up a small wooden box and scanned it. She typed the description into the computer. She put it aside and picked up the next item. Hours passed. Days passed. Ji-woo did not know how many because time had lost all meaning. She woke when the lights turned on. She slept when they turned off. She ate the nutrition blocks that were delivered to her room. She worked. Sometimes, Overseer Kethrax would come to check on her. He was a middle-ranked Varath official, with an especially cold manner. "You are performing adequately," he told her one day. "This is expected. The suppressor removes the inefficiency of emotion. You are now a proper worker." Ji-woo nodded. She was supposed to nod. "Remember," Kethrax said, "under Varath law, you are not a person. You are property. You have no rights. You have no past. You have no future. Except service. Do you understand?" "I understand," Ji-woo said. Her voice sounded strange to her, flat and mechanical. Kethrax left. Ji-woo returned to her work. One morning, or what the lights told her was morning, Ji-woo found a new item in her pile. It was a piece of paper, wrinkled and torn at the edges. A child's drawing. Simple colored lines showed a house, a tree, a sun, and 2 figures holding hands. At the bottom, in messy handwriting, were the words, "My family." Ji-woo picked up the drawing. She looked at it. For a moment, just a brief moment, something flickered in her mind. The suppressor hummed loudly at the base of her skull. Then, she felt it. A wave of crushing sadness so powerful, it almost knocked her from her chair. She remembered her mother's kitchen. She remembered the smell of food cooking, She remembered her little brother's laugh. She remembered being human. Then the suppressor corrected itself, and the feeling vanished. Ji-woo sat frozen, the drawing still in her hands. Her heart was beating fast, but she did not know why. The emotion was gone, but her body remembered it. She put the drawing down carefully. She catalogued it as Human Child Artwork, Origin Unknown, and placed it in the storage container. But something had changed. Deep inside her, in a place the suppressor could not quite reach, a small spark remained. It was not hope. It was not determination. It was just the memory of feeling, and the knowledge that feeling still existed somewhere inside her. That night, Ji-woo lay on her narrow bed in her small room. She stared at the ceiling. The suppressor kept her calm, kept her empty, but she found that if she concentrated very hard, she could almost remember what it felt like to want something. She wanted to feel again. It was a strange thought, distant and faint like a star seen through fog, but it was there. And the Varath, for all their technology and all their cold logic, could not take it away completely. In the archives, surrounded by the stolen pieces of human lives, Ji-woo began to learn something important. The Varath believed emotions were a disease. They believed feelings made humans weak and dangerous. But Ji-woo was beginning to understand that they were wrong. Emotions were not a weakness. They were what made humans human. And somewhere, deep beneath the weight of the suppressor, Ji-woo's humanity was still alive. She just needed something or someone to help her find it again. The days continued. Ji-woo worked, she catalogued, she existed. But now, in the quiet moments, when the suppressor flickered, she held onto that tiny spark. She was still in there. She was still Ji-woo. And one day, she would feel again. Tae-hyun arrived on the station on a gray morning. He carried a small bag with his tools, and a data pad with his work orders. The Varath guard at the entrance scanned his identification chip and waved him through without a word. He was an engineer. That was what his documents said. But really, he was a prisoner like everyone else. The difference was that his chains were invisible. 3 years ago, the Varath had captured a transport ship carrying refugees from a destroyed human colony. Tae-hyun's sister, Hae-won, was on that ship. She was 17 years old. The Varath did not kill the refugees. They did something worse. They kept them as insurance. Work for us, the Varath told Tae-hyun. Design our systems. Maintain our stations. Do everything we ask without question. And your sister lives. Disobey, and she disappears. So Tae-hyun worked. He fixed their machines. He built their containment systems. He kept his head down and his mouth shut. And every night, he thought about Hae-won and wondered if she was still alive. His new assignment was Station Kareth 7, a judicial facility on the border of Varath space. His job was to maintain the neural suppression network, the same technology that kept human prisoners empty and obedient. Tae-hyun hated this work more than anything he had ever done, but he did it anyway, for Hae-won. On his 3rd day, he was sent to the Imperial Archives to check the suppression readings of the workers there. He walked through the rows of shelves, scanning each station with his equipment. Most of the suppressed humans did not even look up when he passed. They just kept working, their eyes blank and their movements mechanical. Then he saw her. She was sitting at a desk near the back, cataloging old photographs. Her hair was pulled back, and her face was pale from lack of sunlight. She moved with the same eerie precision as the others, but something was different. Tae-hyun looked closer. Her eyes. There was something in her eyes that should not be there. A flicker of awareness. A shadow of a person still fighting to exist. He checked his scanner. Her designation was Ji-woo, and her suppressor readings showed a small irregularity. Nothing major. Just a tiny manufacturing flaw that caused occasional disruptions in the suppression field. He should report it. That was the protocol. Any irregularity must be reported so it could be corrected. If he reported it, They would take her away and perform more invasive procedures. They would dig deeper into her brain until nothing of her remained. Taehyun closed the scanner and walked away without filing a report. That night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about her eyes. He had seen hundreds of suppressed humans in his work. They all looked the same, empty, gone, lost. But she was different. She was still fighting. Over the next few weeks, Taehyun found reasons to return to the archives. He told his supervisors he was monitoring a potential issue with the environmental systems. Really, he just wanted to see her. He began to leave small things near her workstation. A smooth stone he had found in one of the storage rooms. A piece of soft fabric from a damaged shipment. A handwritten note in Korean that said, "You are still here." Ji-woo did not react to these gifts. Her suppressor would not let her. But Taehyun noticed that she touched them sometimes. Her fingers would brush against the stone or the fabric, and for just a moment, her movements would slow. One day, she dropped a data crystal. It rolled across the floor and stopped at Taehyun's feet. He bent down to pick it up at the same moment she reached for it. Their fingers touched. Through the contact, he felt her skin, warm and real. And he saw her eyes widen just slightly. The suppressor flickered. Ah, for one heartbeat. She was there, really there, looking at him with recognition, and something that might have been gratitude. Then the moment passed. Her face went blank again. She took the crystal and returned to her work. But Taehyun had seen it. He had seen her. He began to watch her more carefully after that. He noticed the pattern of her suppressor's glitches. They happened randomly, sometimes lasting for a few seconds, sometimes almost a minute. During those times, she would freeze. Her hands would shake slightly. Her breathing would change. He started timing his visits to match those moments. When the suppressor flickered, he would be there, pretending to work on some piece of equipment. He would speak to her softly in Korean, telling her simple things. The weather on Earth was beautiful in spring. The cherry blossoms would fall like snow. My mother used to make the best soup. She said the secret was patience. You are not alone. Ji-woo could not respond. But he saw the way her hands steadied when he spoke. He saw how she turned her head slightly toward his voice. He saw that somewhere inside her, she was listening. Taehyun knew he was taking a terrible risk. If the Verith discovered what he was doing, they would kill him and probably his sister too. But he could not stop, because he had been alone for 3 years. He had buried his feelings deep and become a machine, just like the Verith wanted. But seeing Ji-woo fight, seeing that spark in her eyes, reminded him of something he had almost forgotten. He was human too. And being human meant caring about others, even when it was dangerous, even when it was foolish. One evening, as he was leaving the archives, he stopped at Ji-woo's desk. Her suppressor was stable, and she did not look up. But he left another note anyway. This one said, "I will not let them erase you." It was a promise he did not know how to keep. But he made it anyway, because that was what humans did. They hoped, they cared, they loved, even in the darkest places. And in that cold station, surrounded by aliens who felt nothing, Taehyun had found something worth fighting for. 6 months had passed since Ji-woo's imprisonment. Taehyun had learned the rhythm of her days when she worked, when she rested, when her suppressor was most likely to glitch. He had also learned something terrible. The Verath were planning to use her as a test subject. He discovered this by accident while repairing a communication relay near the command center. A transmission came through while he was working, and he heard the Archon's cold voice discussing the advancement project. They had developed a new suppressor. This one would not just dampen emotions, it would destroy them completely. No more glitches. No more flickers of humanity. The person would be gone forever, leaving only an empty shell that followed orders. Ji-woo was to be the first test subject. The procedure was scheduled for 3 weeks from now. Taehyun's hands shook as he finished his repair work. He walked back to his quarters in a daze. He sat on his bed and stared at the wall. For hours, he could do nothing. If he tried to help her, he would be killed. His sister would be killed. Everything would be for nothing. But if he did nothing, Ji-woo would be erased. That spark in her eyes, that stubborn will to survive all of it, would be destroyed. He thought about his sister. He thought about the promise he had made to Ji-woo. He thought about what kind of man he wanted to be. Then he started to plan. For the next 2 weeks, Taehyun worked harder than he ever had. During the day, he performed his regular duties perfectly. At night, he studied the station's systems, looking for weaknesses. He had been building small backdoors into the Vareth systems for years, hidden codes that he could activate if he ever needed to escape with his sister. Now he began to expand them. 3 days before the procedure, Taehyun made his move. He created a power fluctuation in the archive sector. Nothing major, just enough to require a brief shutdown of non-essential systems for safety. Non-essential systems included the neural suppression network. For exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes, Ji-woo would be free. He found her in the archives, standing frozen at her workstation as the suppressor deactivated. Her whole body began to shake. Her breathing became rapid and shallow. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk so hard her knuckles turned white. Then she looked up, and her eyes were alive. The flood of emotions hit her all at once. Taehyun watched as she gasped, as tears streamed down her face. As she fell to her knees and pressed her hands against the cold floor like she was trying to hold on to reality. He knelt beside her. Ji-woo, listen to my voice. You are safe. I am here. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Her eyes were wild with terror and confusion and something else, recognition. She remembered him. She remembered the notes, the small gifts, the soft words in Korean. You, she whispered. Her voice was rough from months of silence. You were real. Fee. Yes, he said. I am real. And so are you. Gone. Gone. For the next 4 hours, they talked. Ji-woo told him about her life before, how she had been a xenolinguist, how she had believed in building bridges between humans and aliens, how she had been arrested simply for sharing human stories with Vareth children. I just wanted them to understand us, she said. I thought if they could feel what we feel, even for a moment, they would see that we are not so different. But they were afraid. They are so afraid of feeling anything. Taehyun told her about his sister, about the invisible chains that bound him, about the years of guilt and shame he carried for helping the Vareth. I build their cages, he said. Every day, I help them imprison my own people. I tell myself, it is for Haewon. But sometimes, I wonder if I am just a coward. Ji-woo took his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong. You are not a coward, she said. A coward would not have protected me. A coward would not be here now. They are going to destroy you, Taehyun said. The words hurt to say. In 3 days, they have a new procedure. It will erase everything. You will be gone. He expected her to cry or scream or beg him to save her. Instead, she was quiet for a long moment. Then we have 3 days, she finally said. That is more than many people get. I will find a way to stop them. Do not sacrifice yourself for me. Do not sacrifice your sister. I cannot just let them. Listen to me. Ji-woo's voice was firm. You have given me something precious. These months, when everything was dark, your words were the only light I had. Even when I could not feel them, I remembered them. You reminded me that I was still human. She looked at him, and despite everything, she smiled. Whatever happens, I need you to know your gentle gaze was enough. It was more than enough. Taehyun felt tears burn in his eyes. He wanted to tell her that he would burn the whole station down before he let them take her. He wanted to tell her that she was the only good thing in his miserable existence. He wanted to tell her so many things. But time was running out. The suppressor would reactivate soon. So he did the only thing he could. He held her hand and spoke softly in Korean, describing Earth, the rain in summer, the changing leaves in autumn, the taste of his mother's cooking, the sound of children playing in the streets. He painted a world of warmth and color with his words, giving her something beautiful to hold on to when the darkness returned. The suppressor hummed back to life. Jiwoo's face went blank. But just before the light left her eyes, she squeezed his hand once. She had heard him. She would remember. And in that moment, Tae-hyun made a decision. He was done being a prisoner. He was done building cages. Whatever it cost, he was going to set her free. Tae-hyun had 2 days left. 2 days to do the impossible. He reached out to contacts he had been too afraid to use before a network of humans and sympathetic aliens who operated in the shadows of the Vareth Empire. They called themselves the Free Dawn. Most of them were former prisoners, escaped servants, or members of species that the Vareth had nearly destroyed. The leader of the local cell was a Krathi named Vel. The Krathi were reptilian creatures with scales the color of rust. 50 years ago, the Vareth had conquered their homeworld and cleansed most of their population because they were deemed too emotional. The survivors had been fighting back ever since. "You want to free one human girl," Vel said. "Why should we risk everything for one person?" "Because the Vareth are planning a summit," Tae-hyun replied. "They are going to demonstrate the new suppressor technology in front of representatives from dozens of alien species. They want to show the galaxy that humans can be controlled completely. If we act during the summit, we can expose them. We can show everyone what they really are." Vel was silent for a long moment. Then, she made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Perhaps both." She extended a clawed hand. "We will help you. But if this fails, we all die." "I know," Tae-hyun said. "But if it works, we change everything." The day of the summit arrived. The station was filled with delegates from across the galaxy, tall, elegant beings from the Sarathi collective, small and quick Mikani traders, silent observers from species Tae-hyun did not recognize. They had all come to see the Vareth's demonstration of power. Ji-woo was brought into the great hall in chains. She walked with the empty precision of the suppressed, her eyes staring at nothing. The delegates watched with curiosity as she was placed on a raised platform in the center of the room. Archon Velrath stood beside her, his cold voice echoing through the hall. "Distinguished representatives, you see before you a human. Once, her species was considered a threat. Chaotic, emotional, impossible to control. But we have found a solution. With our neural suppression technology, humans become what they were always meant to be: obedient, efficient, useful." He turned to Ji-woo. "Human, tell us what you feel." Ji-woo's lips moved. "I feel nothing." "Tell us what you want." "I want to serve." "Tell us who you are." "I am property of the Vareth Empire." The delegates murmured with approval. Some made notes on their datapads. The Vareth had done it. They had found a way to erase the human spirit entirely. But high above the hall, in a maintenance corridor, Tae-hyun was entering the final codes into his datapad. His hands were steady even though his heart was racing. "Ready?" Vel's voice came through his earpiece. "Ready." "Then do it. Free your people." Tae-hyun pressed the activation key. Throughout the station, every neural suppressor flickered and died. In the great hall, Ji-woo gasped and stumbled. The Vareth guards moved toward her, but they were too slow. Ji-woo looked up. For a moment, she was lost, overwhelmed by the sudden flood of feeling. Then, her eyes found the observation deck above the hall. She saw him there, looking down at her. Tae-hyun's gaze met hers. He nodded once. She understood. Ji-woo turned to face the delegates. Her voice shook, but it was strong. "I feel," she said. "I feel fear. I feel anger. I feel hope." She pulled at her chains. "I am not property. I am human. And you cannot take that from me." The hall erupted in chaos. Varath guards rushed toward the platform, but other humans were waking up too. Servants, workers, prisoners throughout the station. All suddenly free of their suppressors. They did not fight with weapons. They had none. Instead, they did something the Varath had never expected. They sang. It started with one voice, then two, then a dozen. An old song from Earth, a song about freedom and hope. The melody rose through the hall, filling the cold space with warmth. The delegates stared in wonder. Many of them had never heard music before. The Varath considered it a primitive waste of time. But these aliens, the Sarathi, the Mikani, others, they listened, and something in them responded. "What is this?" one delegate asked. "What are they doing?" "They are expressing emotion." Another replied with amazement. "Collectively, through sound. It is beautiful." "Right." Archon Velroth shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the song. The Varath guards hesitated, unsure how to stop something that was not violence. Then the Karathi fleet arrived. The station shook as ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside. Vel's voice came over every speaker. "Attention, delegates. We are broadcasting everything that happens here across every communication network in known space. The galaxy is watching. They will see what the Varath have done. They will see how humans resist. And they will choose their side." The Archon's face twisted with fury. He grabbed Ji-woo by the arm. "You think this changes anything? We will crush this rebellion. We will destroy every human here." But Taehyun had one more card to play. He had copied every file about the suppression program, every order the Archon had given, every record of the torture and dehumanization that happened on this station. Now he broadcast it all. Across the galaxy, beings watched in horror as the truth was revealed. The Varath were not bringing order, they were bringing extinction. They were not removing chaos, they were removing souls. The delegates in the hall began to back away from the Varath representatives. One by one, they removed their translation devices and refused to speak with the Archon. The Varath Empire had built its power on the illusion of superiority. In one day, that illusion had shattered. But the fight was not over. The Archon still had guards, still had weapons. As the chaos swirled around her, Ji-woo saw Varath soldiers advancing on the human prisoners, and she saw Taehyun running toward the main corridor, trying to reach the detention level where the Varath had taken him. He was going for his sister. And the Varath were following him. Ji-woo made a choice. She did not run. She did not hide. She climbed onto the platform and raised her voice above the chaos. "We do not want war," she shouted. "We want dignity. We want to be recognized as beings worthy of respect. That is all we have ever wanted. The delegates listened. The Karathi listened. Even some of the Varath guards paused, but somewhere in the station, Taehyun was running out of time, and Ji-woo knew she might have to make a terrible choice before this day was over. The message came to Ji-woo through a Varath communication device. The Archon's voice was cold and precise. "We have captured your engineer. We also have his sister. If you surrender now and return to suppression, they will both be released. If you refuse, they will be executed. You have 1 hour." Ji-woo stood in the Great Hall, surrounded by freed humans and sympathetic delegates. The Karathi ships still circled outside, but they could not reach into the station without risking everyone inside. Vel had made it clear a direct attack would kill prisoners and delegates alike. The choice was hers. She thought about Taehyun. She remembered his gentle voice describing Earth. She remembered his eyes meeting hers in moments when she had forgotten what hope felt like. He had saved her in ways he would never understand. Could she condemn him to death for the sake of freedom? Could she sacrifice him and his innocent sister for a cause, no matter how just? The other humans looked at her, waiting. They had chosen her as their voice, without even realizing it. She was the one who had stood on the platform. She was the one who had spoken for them all. "What do we do?" one of them asked. Jiwoo closed her eyes. In her mind, she heard Taehyun's words. "Do not sacrifice yourself for me. Do not sacrifice your sister." He had told her that. He had meant it. But she also knew that he would never forgive himself if she surrendered because of him. He would spend the rest of his life knowing that her freedom was traded for his. She opened her eyes. "We negotiate," she said. The next hour was the longest of Jiwoo's life. She met with the alien delegates, one by one, building alliances that had seemed impossible just hours before. The Sarathi agreed to witness. The Makani offered their trading networks as leverage. Even species that had benefited from Verath rule began to reconsider. The broadcast had changed everything. Across the galaxy, beings were watching this station, waiting to see what would happen. The Verath could not simply execute everyone, not with the universe as their audience. Jiwoo proposed something new. She called it the Soul Accords, naming it after Earth's tradition of peacebuilding. A framework for interspecies relations based on consent and dignity instead of domination. An end to neural suppression. Recognition of human rights under galactic law. The delegates listened. They debated. And slowly, they began to agree. The Archon was furious. His empire was crumbling. And he knew it. But he was also smart enough to see that fighting now would only make things worse. In the end, he accepted the terms. The Verath would release all human prisoners, including Taehyun and Haewon. In exchange, humans would not seek revenge. Only justice through the new accords. It was not a perfect victory. Many Verath officials would escape punishment. The Empire would continue to exist, though weakened. But it was a beginning. When Taehyun walked out of the detention level, Jiwoo was waiting for him. His face was bruised, and he moved slowly. But he was alive. Behind him was a young woman with the same eyes as his Haewon, frightened but unharmed. Jiwoo did not know what to say. After everything they had been through, words seemed too small, so she simply embraced him. Taehyun held her tightly. For a long moment, they stood there. Two humans who had found each other in the darkest place imaginable. "You did not surrender," he whispered. "I could not," she replied. "You taught me what freedom really means. I was not going to give that up for anyone. Not even for you." He pulled back and looked at her. His eyes were wet, but he was smiling. "I did not teach you anything," he said. "You were always this strong. I just saw it." 1 year later, Jiwoo stood before a crowd of humans and aliens on a neutral space station. She was now the chief human ambassador under the Soul Accords, leading the effort to dismantle oppressive systems across the galaxy. Behind her, a memorial wall displayed the names of those who had died under suppression. Thousands of names in hundreds of languages. Each one a person. Each one a loss. Taehyun stood beside her. He had left the Verath entirely, using his skills to build new technologies, systems that protected and connected instead of controlled and imprisoned. Haewon worked with him now, free at last, helping design translation programs that allowed different species to understand each other's emotional expressions. "We gather today to remember," Jiwoo said to the crowd. "To remember those we lost, to remember the darkness we endured, but also to remember why we fought." She paused, looking out at the faces, before her humans and Karathi, Sarathi, and Mikani, and dozens of others. The Verath believed that emotions were a weakness. They thought that by removing our ability to feel, they could control us. But they were wrong. Our emotions are not our weakness. They are our greatest strength. She felt Taehyun's hand find hers. "We feel fear, and we learn caution. We feel anger, and we fight injustice. We feel love, and we protect each other. We feel hope, and we build better futures. This is what it means to be human. This is what it means to be alive. After the ceremony, Ji-woo and Tae-hyun stood alone before the memorial wall. She placed her hand on the smooth surface, finally able to grieve for all those she had lost. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked quietly. Tae-hyun considered the question. "I think the pain would have happened anyway. The Varath made sure of that. What we did was give it meaning. We turned suffering into change." Ji-woo nodded. She turned to face him. This gentle man, who had saved her, with nothing but his presence and his belief in her humanity. "You know what the Varath never understood?" she said. "What? Emotions are not a contamination. They are what makes us alive." He smiled, that soft, warm smile that had anchored her through the darkest days. "Then let us make sure the galaxy stays alive," he said. She took his hand, and together they walked away from the memorial, toward a future they were building, one choice at a time. Behind them, the names on the wall seemed to glow in the light, a reminder of the past and a promise for the future. The universe was vast and cold, but wherever humans went, they carried their emotions with them like fire in the darkness. And that fire, the Varath had learned, could not be suppressed. It could only grow.